Joining me with her analysis of the market scene at midday trade is Cremen from Adviceworx. Caroline, thanks so much for your time today. So the US president's moves have been trumping all the other news, and we seem to forget that we're deep in US earnings season. Yesterday we got numbers out from Alphabet. It doesn't seem like markets were really impressed by those numbers. They missed revenue expectations, and there seems to be concerns around Alphabet's AI spend. What did you make of that report?
Well, I think you've just got to remember we're coming off a tech sector which is really highly valued. I mean, they had a real run last year. So any slight disappointment or any kind of adjustment to earnings or any indication that earnings are going to slow is actually going to knock companies. So there's that. There's the overvaluation. I also think that part of the worries that we're sitting with is, people really don't know how these tariffs are actually going to impact these big tech companies. And I don't think it's only the tariff, it's the tariffs, being used as the big stick. So, we already saw, with the tariffs in China being implemented, that China's launching an investigation into NVIDIA and Google. Now, that timing was not, it was not a coincidence. It's done tit for tat. So I think you're sitting in a period of high valuations, earnings, which we would expect to slow justifiably when it gets reported, and then this whole issue about the geopolitics, impacting these companies who are multinational, having an impact, and it's going to carry on like that, I think, probably for at least a few weeks, possibly months.
And I just saw that China also planning on investigating Apple, and to my surprise, I was like, oh, okay, I guess it's part of that tit for tat between China and the US.
Well, Apple produces a lot of its components in China. So, if you're going to investigate somewhere where it actually provides jobs into your company, actually provides revenue into your country, it's what's happening behind the scenes. Are they doing that as a threat? We'll investigate you, and maybe just step back from trying to onshore, remove your production out of China. It's possibly that. But I think that what we can take out of this is that, the way Mexico and Canada folded, and kind of gave Trump what he wanted with tariffs, China's not in the same position. They don't have to take that big stick approach because they've got quite a few big sticks of their own.
Yeah.
And, so it's going to be an interesting few weeks because at this point, the market did react a little bit to tariffs, but then when everything got sorted out with Canada and Mexico, the market kind of calmed down. It doesn't appear as if we're heading this way with China. So it's going to be a tit for tat over the next few weeks. Let's see where it lands.
All right, let's move across to the Atlantic. Over in Europe, Novo Nordisk posting upbeat fourth quarter earnings as demand for its obesity drug Wegovy soared, but it's warning of a slight slowdown in sales for 2025. Last year, they pegged sales growth between 18 to 26%. They've lowered that to 16 to 24%. Not much of a change, right?
No, not much of a change. And many companies in the world would actually love sales growth in this type of market of 16 to 24%, and their operating profit 19 to 27%. So, on the back of that was the increase in sales of Wegovy was something like 107%, which is just exceptional. So, again, we've got to take this in perspective. You had a very, very big run up in the share price and very, very big increase in sales when they launched this new drug. These types of markets moderate over time, but you've got to look at the long-term, projections for these markets, and it is still a growing market because it is absolute demand for those types of drugs. They haven't actually even started to sell them in a lot of territories where there's additional demand. So yes, you're not going to, maybe, if you bought Novo Nordisk, you missed out on that initial bump, but it is down, I think, 30% on a year-on-year basis. And you've got to look at the long-term trajectory of those types of drugs and say with an older population, a sicker population, governments wanting to track, to really tackle obesity and health issues. It's a very good long-term potential for this company, and it's quite an opportune time, I think, actually to start to pick it up.
Let me put you on the spot for a bit here. Would you say Novo Nordisk or Eli Lilly?
Both.
Both.
I really do like both of them. I think they're not necessarily going to fire on the same cylinders at exactly the same time, but you can actually just look at which one is cheaper at any point in time, and if one is having an episode in the market doesn't like something that has happened, buy that one, but do pick them up.
Let's move over to some local company news. Sappi returning to profitability in the first quarter, boosted by increased sales and selling prices, or rather increased volumes and selling prices. I'd expect the news to have, a positive impact on the share price. The last time I checked, it was down just over 1%. What's the mismatch there? What's going on?
Look, I think this is largely expected. They did, talk about how they were reducing debt. They've delivered on what they've said. So I think their results are pretty much in line with people's expectations. Also, we're probably at the bottom of the market as far as their products go. But again, when, in their results, they also talk about, slow markets and demand in the EU not looking good. This is very much a stock that is almost geared to global growth. So when you look at one of their big areas that they supply into, Europe not looking great, maybe that does temper a bit of the enthusiasm for the shares. But I think it was a nice set of results anyway.
And then on the other side, we have Sasol warning of an earnings plunge of up to 36%. I mean, this is not a surprise, right?
It's never a surprise. I think the only way I'll be surprised by Sasol is that they have, they outperform any particular point in time. So, lower guidance on the EBITDA. Again, there's reasons, excuses for it. Lower crude prices, lower production. I just do not know what to say about this one. It's not a surprise.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be a surprise to anyone.
I've been saying that Sasol shareholders are some of the strongest people we know, honestly.
I know.
All right.
I do want to meet you because I don't know many.
All right, before we get to your stock pick, let's reflect on some counters that have found favor with your industry peers.
So we got the update today pretty much in line with expectations. I think some investors perhaps get too bogged down in the detail and thinking about what's going to be the like-for-like number in the next 6 months or so. I think with Boxer, I think highly probable, if you look 5 years from now, the stock will probably at least double, in my view. So I think it's one of those that you put in a bottom drawer. We don't have many quality growth stories in South Africa. So I think this is one we're following. It doesn't mean there will not be any speed bumps along and there might be big pullbacks. That will probably be a good buying opportunity for long-term investors. So it's one that I like specifically for that case.
I'm finding it in Denmark, Zenati. So my stock pick is Novo Nordisk, one of the biggest pharma companies in the world, and they specialize in weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy. Ozempic is actually not really for weight loss, but people have been using it for weight loss. And the share is down 40% in the last 6 months. It has shrunk. It has lost weight as people get concerned about the rivalry between Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly. And Eli Lilly's drug, Mounjaro, has been winning market share against Ozempic and Wegovy. But I do think, if you think about it broader, not just in the US, there are so many people who want this drug, who want to lose weight. Excess weight is associated with so many bad health indicators that I think ultimately a lot of people are going to end up being on one of these two drugs, whether it's Eli Lilly's or Novo Nordisk's. And therefore, this 40% correction in the share price is an opportunity to buy a very high quality company at a decent valuation at the moment.
So Novo Nordisk and Boxer, both counters really winners in the sectors they operate in. You did touch on Novo Nordisk there, and we put it up against Eli Lilly, and you seem to be bullish on both stocks. What about Boxer?
So I think it's interesting because Boxer's a valuation story, and I almost think that a lot of the goodwill towards this new listing is probably in the price already. I think we all want this company to succeed because, we're investors in the South African market, and, apart from ShopRite, that food retail segment has been kind of abysmal over the past few years. So Boxer really does seem to be getting it right. You know, it's got a very focused market, it's got a very focused brand, it's got a very focused strategy, and I do see, you know, we do see that there are increased sales of those stores that they're rebranding. I think that's great for the company, as Pick and Pay was all over the place. It wanted to be upper middle and lower, and you just can't do that. You need, you know, and have a proper focus. So it does appear as if, from a management point of view and a rollout point of view, is that they're extremely focused on what they're doing, but it's going to take time to actually see if that actually bears fruit. I do think it will. But then again, for me, I think the valuation is a bit full at this point.
So hold on Boxer.
I hold on Boxer, but buy into weakness, because, you know, every so often we have a little market issue and then you can actually pick some up. I'm hoping that this will develop into an alternative ShopRite. We do need more things to be able to invest into in South Africa.
All right, let's get into your stock pick. What are you hanging your hat on today, Caroline?
Okay, well, it's another one. It is NVIDIA. So I know that people have been watching this quite closely over the last weeks, and it still appears to be expensive on a 40 PE. So here's the thing. Last week it fell, I think it was almost 20% intraday. It is the most volatile share of all time. The thing swings all over the place. And I think part of that is people really just worried about the valuation. People don't understand the industry very well, and possibly don't have a great idea of what NVIDIA does, or really how it makes its money. But here's the thing. So it fell in relation to the DeepSeek, to the announcement of DeepSeek, which is a cheaper AI developed by somebody in China. Competition innovation is good in industries, okay, but it is specifically good for this type of industry. And what people don't realize is that if you've got a cheaper AI that might even be open source, you're going to have a lot more entrance into that AI sphere. And NVIDIA doesn't only make those top-end chips, it makes a lot of other things as well that are going to become increasingly attractive. That's the one thing. The other thing is NVIDIA is also moving into serverless cloud computing. Now that's really going to be a sea change, and it's partnered with, you know, the big guys like Microsoft and Apple, and it's got an ecosystem which essentially kind of locks a lot of these people in there. People are not just going to go to unproved partners for this type of thing. So really quality company, they innovate all of the time. It is a mistake to say that their days are over simply because one part of what they supply is possibly not going to be as attractive in the future. I doubt that. Use the opportunities in this extremely volatile stock whenever it sells down to accumulate a little position in your portfolios.
So NVIDIA, one to look out for. Caroline, thanks so much for your time and sharing insights on the day's markets action. That was Caroline Cremen from Adviceworx.